Hi, everybody. My name is Amber, and I'm one of the coaches here at Anytime Fitness, North Peoria and Germantown Hills. And today we're talking about how to recover properly. A lot of times, if you are brand new to exercise, or maybe you are starting to add something new into your workout regimen, that really introduces our body to the possibility of being overtrained. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in this presentation. But what I would like to walk through today is how you can set yourself up to be more successful in your workout regimens, whether you're introducing something new or you are increasing how often or the duration that you're going to be working out for, and how to make sure that you are warding off overuse injuries so that you can continue working out and meeting all of those goals that you set. So why is recovery important? And a simple answer is that if you wish to propel yourself forward, you need to properly recover by both what you do physically and what you fuel your body with. And we'll touch on both of those later today, but just know that we also on our YouTube channel have a great presentation by our head coach, Patrick Thompson, all about nutrition. And he really dives in on how to fuel your body properly. So I'd highly recommend that you go and watch that video as well, because I think that that will make a huge difference in seeing changes in your body and making sure that you are eating everything that you need to really fuel yourself for your workouts and be able to hit all of your goals. There are definitely different components to recovery. A lot of times when we think about recovery, we think about just the physical rest, or we also think about the stretching. And that's not all that it consists of in order to make sure that you are really taking the time that your body needs to recover from the workouts. So first off, we will talk a little bit more about the types of workouts and your schedule of workouts. So what that looks like is that on a Sunday through Saturday, what types of workouts you're doing when, and making sure that that makes sense from a recovery standpoint. Next, the actual physical rest, and then we'll also touch on the difference between stretching and myofascial release, and then nutrition. I cannot stress enough how important nutrition is going to be in recovery. Okay, so the types of workouts, you want to make sure that when you look at your Sunday through Saturday, your week calendar of workouts, that one, your strength workouts are properly timed. So the general rule of thumb is that when you do a muscle group, that you at least leave 48 hours before you work that muscle group again when you're talking strength. That's just to make sure that your muscle actually repairs properly before you go and work that muscle again. When you're talking about strength workouts, the muscles are actually getting small tears in them, and then over time, about 48 hours is when they would be recovered enough in order for you to work them again. So making sure that as we're getting those tears, that we're not just continually doing more damage to our muscle, that we're actually allowing the body time to heal and be able to rebuild, because that's when you're actually going to see that hypertrophy effect or that toning look throughout your body. Next, understanding heart rate training. So we talked about heart rate training before. You can see the presentation that I had done before. It's about 10 minutes long on our YouTube channel. And just making sure that when you are doing your workouts that you're not pushing too hard. So we talked about in that last YouTube video that when you go into the red zone, so that 90 to 100% of your max heart rate, that you're not staying there for your workouts. You would probably notice if you're dipping into that the higher zones during your workouts too much. Your workouts should generally get you more energized. And if after you're working out, especially let's say you do your workout in the early morning, and then throughout your day, you're just always lethargic. And then if you were to take a rest day and you notice a significant difference, that might be your body telling you that you're pushing too hard during your workouts. So just knowing where you should be for your heart rate in terms of the different zones during cardio exercise. Exercise volume. So it's really easy, especially when you're starting off or you're really trying to hit some certain goals, that your exercise volume increases. And just knowing each body is so different, and some people might be able to handle 2 hours of exercise every day, and some cannot. So just know what that means for your body and what you will need to do if you are increasing your volume nutritionally and in terms of the physical rest. I personally, and this last bullet point is the day of rest. I personally am a person to where I have to have a day of rest in my 7-day week. So on Sundays, I always know that that's the day to where I will do most likely no workout, but if I do, it's very light. Foam rolling, yoga, stretching, something to where I am giving my body that full day of rest to make sure that I'm warding off those overuse injuries. Overuse injuries, especially when you're doing the same type of training most of the week. A good example of that is when you're training for a race, so you're doing running or some type of running most days of the week. You typically start to notice some pains that are nagging, and I am one to where I will always get that. I've had plantar fasciitis and IT band syndrome, kind of the full gamut. So I just know that that's what my body needs to ward those off. So I would just encourage you to start off with 1 day of rest and see how your body handles it after several weeks, and then seeing how you can continue to incorporate rest in some way, shape, or form during your week so that you're staying safe and making sure that your workouts are effective. Okay, overtraining. Overtraining syndrome is common in nearly every sport and fitness activity. Overtraining happens when an athlete performs more training than his or her body can recover from, to the point where performance declines. So a lot of people think of overtraining as being something that only athletes have to deal with, and that's just it's simply not true. There are several types of syndromes out there that used to only be for like Olympic athletes. And now that people are starting to really wrap their arms around pushing themselves a little bit harder in terms of exercise and physical activity, that these syndromes are becoming more common among everyday people. So just making sure that you are constantly listening to your body, and when your body is telling you that it's tired and it needs rest, to make sure that you are following suit. So some causes of overtraining. The biggest one is going to be increasing your timing, frequency, duration, and or intensity of your workouts too quickly. So you think about adding something brand new into your workout regimen, and typically the rule of thumb is going to be that you go about 10% more every time you go to that exercise. So let's say week 1, you're going to run a mile. Then week 2, you increase that by about 10%. And you continually do that every week. That way you're making sure that you're just slowly adding on your timing and your frequency and duration, instead of just going from I'm not running anything at all to all of a sudden I'm running 10 miles. You're going to see how your body won't be able to adapt that quickly. So you need to be able to build up the endurance and the stamina so that way you aren't looking at overuse injuries or overtraining. Another piece of that is that you're not increasing intensity too quickly. Intensity is a really easy one to get overuse injuries from, or overtraining symptoms, just because you want to push yourself, and then therefore you go into that red zone, which is it's not a bad thing, but staying in that red zone too much, but then not allowing your body to get the rest that it needs. That one is one to where even if you're only working out for 30 minutes a day, you can still overtrain if you're going at it too hard. Then the next one is just a lack of rest. So again, just making sure that you know your body and you are accounting for a rest day during your week. I did want to include some symptoms of overtraining, and the reason for that is because a lot of times you will see some of these just because you're starting something new in your training regimen. So know that if you see that you're tired or you're tight, that might be normal, but when you're seeing this for longer periods of times than just a couple of days, that's when there might be something else going on. So, just looking through this list here, an increased rate of overuse injuries. So like I had said before, when you're starting to notice, okay, I'm getting plantar fasciitis. So every time that I get out of bed in the morning and I put my feet on the floor, there's a shooting pain in the middle of my foot. And that's not going away throughout the day. It's also not getting any better. It's either staying the same or it's getting worse. You have a decreased appetite, elevated heart rate and blood pressure. So when you start to increase that intensity and not giving your body the rest, then your heart has been working so hard that it starts to work that hard outside of your workouts and just while you're doing day-to-day activities as well. If you're constantly sick, so a lot of times you start to see a decrease in your immune system when you've not allowed to give your body the rest that it needs. Women, if you're starting to notice changes in your menstrual pattern, so if you're noticing changes there, or this can also be that your body fat percentage is actually lower than what it should be. Decreased coordination, so your balance is off. Yeah, all of these things are things to where you might notice this one or two times just because you're adding in a new workout regimen or a different type of workout routine into your weekly normal routine. But when you're starting to see these several days at a time and it's not getting any better, that's when there might be some type of a problem. And you need to look at that frequency, duration, intensity, timing, and also how often you are resting during your week.
The different types of stretching that you will typically see, at least at the Anytime Fitness locations, are mainly 4 different kinds. There are more than this, but these are pretty common go-tos for us. First off is dynamic stretching. This one is going to be one to where you're going to see this in the warm-up for our group training sessions, for personal training. These are movements where you're moving through different exercises, but you're either moving through them slowly or you're actually doing stretches that you're moving through. This is to warm up the body properly, and this is really well thought out with the coaches. So any of the dynamic stretches we're going to be taking you through are specifically chosen for exercises that you're going to be doing later on. So for example, we're going to be taking you through some hip openers if you're doing some squats in your workout. So then that way your hips are more powerful and more effective during the workout itself. And next is the static stretching. So this is something that you're likely going to see after your workout. So this is a stretch that you're holding in for anywhere between 15 seconds to a minute and a half. Research actually shows that if you're holding for a little bit longer, so more in that 90-second to 2-minute range, then it's going to be a little bit more effective because it really allows the myofascia, which is some of the fascia in your muscles. So it's going to allow the muscles to release even more because it sometimes takes up to that 90 seconds or 2 minutes for those muscles to really react to the stretch. Dynamic and static stretching, those are different things that you'll see in yoga. So you'll see a little movement through the stretch or in like a little bit of like a flow, or you might see static stretching where you're holding in a certain pose. So both of those are very effective, but they need to be well thought out in when you're doing it so that way you're not taking yourself through a deep stretch if you're not yet warm. PNF stretching, this is something that you'll probably see a coach doing with a client because this takes someone holding one of your limbs or you placing pressure against something. So you'll typically push, let's say if you're doing a hamstring stretch, you're going to be pushing your leg against an outside source or a person for about 10 to 15 seconds, and that allows your muscle to further release into this stretch so you can get a little bit deeper. A lot of gymnasts will use this when they're trying to, maybe if you're not able to do the splits fully, then you'll see PNF stretching in order to be able to get into the split stretch. So this one, again, is super effective, but it's really important when you do it and making sure that it's not done on cold muscles. Myofascial release, this is something to where it requires an outside source. So either a foam roller or balls, or this is also when you're getting a deep tissue massage. Myofascia is the makeup of your muscle, and so it's helping to release any lockup in there. So then that way you can get deeper into a stretch, and it allows the muscles to release a little bit more. So like the quote unquote knots that you would have in your muscle, this is what that's working on.
And lastly, I just wanted to hit on it one more time. So nutrition, first off, making sure that you are rehydrating your body after your workouts. So the general rule of thumb is that you start off with half of your body weight in ounces of water per day. So if you weigh 150 pounds, and you should be starting off with roughly about 75 ounces of water per day. For some people, especially if you are a female or if you're on that lower body weight, then that might be different for you. And so just kind of start off with that general rule of thumb and see how you start to feel. If you feel really super bloated after doing that for several days in a row, then that may not be right for you, and that's totally fine. But just making sure that you're rehydrating your body. You think about, if you were to put a rubber band and stretch it, it's able to stretch, but if it has been sitting there for long periods of time in the sun and it's had a lot of work, then you go to pull it and it snaps. That's what your muscles are like. If you're not properly taking care of it, and you're not giving it the things that it needs, then you are going to experience an injury in some way, shape, or form, or something going on in your body. It's going to tell you that you are not treating your body the way that you should, by the work that you're putting it through. And then the other things that I wanted to touch on are protein. Protein, just making sure that you are consuming the right amount that you need for your body and the types of workouts that you're doing, as well as what goals you have set for yourself, and making sure that you're timing your protein correctly, and making sure that your carbohydrates, so that's your fruits and your grains, making sure that you are timing those well, as well as you are making sure that you are having enough, again, for the type of workout you're doing and for the goals that you have set for yourself. All of those three things are going to be really important to make sure that your body has what it needs to be able to push through the workouts that you're doing, and that you're able to see the changes that you want. And that will help propel yourself forward even faster than if you don't focus on nutrition as well and only exercise. Well, I hope you found this presentation helpful, just learning about different things that you can do and things to look out for when you are putting together your workout regimen. When you are putting this together, don't have to be an expert. Feel free to reach out to any of our coaches, and we'd be happy to sit down with you and talk through what it would look like for you to reach your goals according to the time that you have available in your schedule, and making sure that everything that you do is safe and effective, so that way you don't have any setbacks along the way.